This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's worst 250 movies so you do not have to.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
I'm Abigail Ward.
And this week we watched Jaws 3D. A giant 35-foot shark becomes trapped in a SeaWorld theme park, and it's up to the sons of Police Chief Brody to rescue everyone. Let's watch. Hey, how you going, Abby?
My brain's sleepy.
Your brain is sleepy?
Yeah.
On the one hand, I'd say that's the thing that is most often sleepy, but also on the other hand, I'd say that sounds distinct and specific.
Well, sometimes my body is sleepy, but my brain is wired. But right now my body's fine, but my brain is sleepy.
Is this like I've heard from weed, a drug I would never touch, yucky, nasty, illegal.
I wouldn't touch it because it just sends me to sleep.
But but I've heard there's body high and head high.
Sure, I'm
Cool.
not a weed person.
Even though I was doing a bit, me neither. But that's
Yeah.
mostly because of access. It's illegal.
Yes, it's illegal. One time when I didn't smoke weed because
Sure,
it's
yeah.
illegal, I was like fucking.
Imagine if they got you. They arrested you for this
Can you
podcast.
imagine?
And that's the world we live in, you know?
Yeah, but I'm just not. I get anxious and paranoid and tired. And then one time, Claude, I was like, look, listen. I abused some amphetamines, and then I took some, and then I smoked some weed because Claude was like, take it with me, you'll stay up because you've had amphetamines. And I was like, yeah, even with like 3 Dexies and like 3, like I think I actually did a line of speed. This is getting worse the more I talk about it. But I had it in my body, and then I smoked some weed, and I was like, surely I will stay awake. But then I just remember I felt really drowsy on the couch within like 2 minutes, and I went, I'm just going to get up and go sit in bed for a second. And I went up and I sat in bed, was sitting upright in bed, and then I basically closed my eyes, and then I opened them to Claude coming in saying, Abby, what are you doing? And I'd been asleep upright for 2 hours. Just like fully, just completely, I think I still had my phone in my hand. And I was like, what time is it? And Claude was like, it's like 2 a.m. And I was like, oh, and he was like, do you want to come back to the couch? And I was like, yeah. And I got up and I went onto the couch, sat next to him, passed out for another hour. And then I woke up at 3, no longer high. And I was like, it just turned me off for 3 hours.
It sounds like you could have gotten a really good, nice night of sleep if your husband didn't wake you up.
Well, I think I would have woken up eventually because I had speed in my system still.
Oh, you certainly would have woken up eventually, I hope.
But the problem, hopefully. But
Fingers crossed.
I feel like the weed was just like, it was a power down button. Like it
sure.
clicked a button on the back of my head.
Maybe that's why I enjoy it theoretically, you know,
theoretically.
I am an anxious, stressy person. I need an off button.
Yeah. Whereas for me, I need uppers because I need the energy and the positive.
You're a sleepy
positive
gal,
thoughts.
you know.
Yeah, I've got a lot of get up and go, a lot of vavoom, but I just.
Are you yawning while you're saying that?
Maybe. Today I'm not.
I've got a lot of like up and go.
Well, I wouldn't classify myself as a sleepy gal.
Sure,
but I need the upper. Downers are no good for me.
Yeah.
I can't take any drugs anymore. I've ruined my brain from certain drugs that I have abused in the past.
They're all legal though. They're all legal.
Super
it's
legal
just
drugs.
coffee. It's just Panadol.
I can't. I'm not doing alcohol this February.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not drinking at all.
That's the classic. No fat. No fat February is not a thing, and also not what you were talking about.
No fat February.
Here's my pitch. No fat February.
It just means you get to harass anyone you deem as fat on the sidewalk.
No fap is what I said.
Oh, no fap. I thought you said no fat.
No.
No fat February.
I would never pitch no fat February.
I'm not doing no fat February, Michelle. No, I'm not.
It's the shortest month. It's the easiest month to do.
I would argue that quitting alcohol in February is not easy because it's summer and all I want is a lovely cold spritzy drink or like a glass of white wine. That's all I want in summer. So I think it will be a good reason to not go to social events because I'll just be tempted.
See, I find it easier to not drink alcohol, even though alcoholic drinks are by and large quite cold. Mostly because I don't want to go out. It's too hot. I don't want to go out. And then what I instead do is that's when I abuse the most coffee because it is cold, like an iced long black,
Yeah.
is just as like nourishing and hydrating to me.
I make cold brew at home. It goes hard.
I hate cold brew.
Why?
Because it's like, what if coffee sucked? I don't know.
What are you talking about? It's like,
it.
what if an iced long black tasted less bitter and more fragrant and aromatic and delicious?
Yeah, but all the fragrances and aromas that it has are bad.
They're the coffee aromas.
Well, yeah.
You just want your coffee to taste burnt. That's what you want.
I don't want it to taste burnt. I never made that declaration.
An iced long black kind of tastes, it's so bitter sometimes it can taste petrol-y or gasoline-y.
What?
Have you ever had ones like that?
No, I get good coffee.
Yeah. I don't know. Even good coffee, it tastes like petrol or gasoline.
I've never had it taste like petrol before.
But
That's
when you
craziness.
have an iced filter coffee, chocolatey aromas.
Iced. Get out of here with your big city iced filter coffee, all right?
And then I top it off with a small slice of orange. It like adds this nice
sounds pretty. That
sweetness.
does sound pretty good.
Yeah, big glass.
Do you ever
of
have an
ice.
orange and it just tastes like petrol though?
How dare you?
The glistening orange petrol.
But I'm not okay. So I'm not drinking alcohol, and then for the rest of the year, I'm only drinking alcohol on weekends because I enjoy my wine too much. And it's not like it's an issue, but I crave it now, so I'm cutting. So I'm gonna have a shockingly boring month because I can't take fucking uppers, and I can't drink. All I have, honestly, is like
your normal self.
Mount Franklin mineral waters. That's all I've got going.
I mean,
for
if
me.
you want, we could like hang out.
What?
Instead of going out and drinking and stuff, we could hang out.
The thing is, it's not even like I go out and I drink a lot.
Yeah.
Claude and I will crack a fucking bottle of wine at any opportunity and drink it together.
That's true. It doesn't matter what I invite you guys over for. You bring 1 to 2 bottles of wine
every time,
every single time.
And then on like a Thursday night, we're like, oh my god, let's watch watch TV together, and we'll like eat dinner. And then Claude's like, should I crack a bottle of wine? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And we drink the whole thing together because it's delicious.
Sure.
Oh, so now I'm gonna have the most boring February ever.
Maybe you'll get some writing done.
Maybe I'll feel like my sleep has improved, my health has improved.
Maybe you won't need uppers so much.
Maybe. Fuck, that's true. But me from 2021 would be so proud of me.
I'm proud
in
of you.
2024.
Yeah, me in 2024 is proud of you.
My substance abuse issue self in 2021 would be very, very pleased to see that I didn't spiral.
You really have quite the arc on this podcast.
I really do. 2021, guys, if you go back and listen to 2021, you might be able to tell that I wasn't doing too well.
I actually think I reversed my prior statement. I think you're the protagonist of this podcast because you've got the arc. You started being like, I'm substance abusing. I hate the idea of love. I'm burned down on it. Now you're married.
I'm quitting alcohol for the month.
Alcohol.
I haven't touched uppers.
You're at least
in a very
cleaning
long
yourself.
time.
You know, you can still indulge when you want.
Cleaning myself.
I thought that, okay, my bad. I did not know that was the inappropriate language. I mean, like,
I'm cleaning myself. Wait, what do you mean?
like, you know, because people say like cutting alcohol is like going clean.
Right.
But
yeah.
you're not going clean. You're allowed to still like indulge later
Yeah.
when you want. So it's just like, it's like a spring cleaning.
Yeah, it's a body spring cleaning. Next thing I know, I'll be drinking celery juice and detoxifying and saying no to vaccines.
That's terrible. That's a villain arc. That's awesome. That's awful. You know what? No, we got to go talk about the movie now.
Okay.
No, what did you want to say? What did you want to say?
It's so not a thing. I have heard people in the drug community don't like...
What are you, a cop?
Yeah, in the drug community. They don't like the term clean
Yeah.
because it denotes that they're dirty.
It does
and
denote
whatever.
like a moral value.
Yeah, which I
get,
understand.
yeah.
But then I also love it when most people that have taken drugs, though, don't really give a shit. And there's a lot of people that are just like, I was a junkie 3 years ago. Let's talk about it. And you're like, all right.
I was a filthy little crackhead.
That's
all right.
I was a little crack whore 3 years ago.
Speaking of filthy little crack whores, this week we watched Jaws 3D.
Whoa.
Abby, how'd you find this movie?
Oh, Michelle, I found it so incredibly boring. It's 90 minutes, which should be a saving grace.
Yeah.
But it went forever.
It's a long
and ever.
90.
And it was a long 90, and I spent the whole time thinking, like, who signed off on this? Who thought Jaws needed to be elaborated on?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, and I wanted to text you, but I didn't. I thought I would just save it for this.
Hell yeah.
I am so sorry that you had to watch that so much as a kid. Like, you had the Jaws 2, 3, and 4 box set when you'd ask for
told
Jaws
that story,
1. You
right?
did.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, like, Michelle had to watch this as a kid. Like, this is so tedious.
Because my sister was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
As well as specifically Jaws 4, The Revenge.
She was also obsessed with High School Musical 2.
Yes.
There was a lot of sequels that dominated your life.
Yeah, well, because they were cheap on DVD,
Yeah.
and often they would have like a lot of bright imagery.
Yes,
You know?
yeah. And like the thing about this as well is that I had to keep in mind that Jaws is, it is like in a sense, it is like a horror film, or it's a thriller. It's scary. It's full of suspense, but it's not a horror slasher film in the way that like Friday the 13th is. So I went into this film kind of expecting it to be full of gore and really hammed up, and there'd be death after death after death, almost like a Friday the 13th. But then I was like, no, it's Jaws. So the deaths were very far and few in between.
Yeah.
Which made it really boring. I was like, I actually am craving for someone to get bitten because there's so many tantalizing moments of they almost do. What's lurking there?
Here's I think the thing that's interesting about that. So I told the story of how my mum bought me the sequel DVD pack, and then my sister watched it a bunch. And also I undertook sometimes how much like my sister has also contributed to my fascination with bad movies, because I've seen so many because of her as well.
Yeah.
But I've also seen the beginning of this movie in another context. My first day at film school, I had a class with Paul Barakat, who was my directing teacher, who then went on to direct the feature film Kairos. That was also the first film that I edited.
Great film. Made me cry.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
So well edited.
Thank you. Wow. And you know what? It is actually available at JB Hi-Fi on DVD, and it's also available, I think, on SBS On Demand and ABC iView. I think it's on both of them.
Amazing.
I know.
I
so
should
if you're in
rewatch
Australia-
it.
Hell yeah, you should.
Loved it.
And you should tell your friends to buy the DVD.
It really makes a
It
difference.
really makes a difference. Anyway, on our first day, it was the very first lecture. It was the perfect way to start the course. He showed us two scenes: the opening sequence of Jaws and the opening sequence of Jaws 3D, as just like a lesson in the exact sort of filmmaking and editing that none of us had really conceived of before, because it's like dialogue free. A lot of it is undertitles and just like B-roll, the kind of stuff that a lot of people just phone in. And Jaws, it begins, you're looking quite down on like coral reefs as it's like searching around. So it's quite obscured, it's quite murky.
But you can tell it's the POV of an animal.
Of a
swimming.
shark.
Yeah.
But you also get the idea that you're looking out for something. So it feels tense because it feels like something is just out of frame.
Yeah.
You know? And then it comes up to the party. We immediately see a connection between this boy and this girl. So now we have two heroes that we care about. We're invested in them connecting. She invites him down to the beach. He's a little too drunk and passes out on the beach. She's out there, and then she gets attacked by a shark. The character that if we're just an average moviegoer in 1978, that we think
was it
is
75, or is that way too early?
no, maybe it was. I think it was 75.
Like it was 75. Yeah.
The character that we think is the protagonist just gets killed.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
We're now so clicked into Jaws. Oh my God, this is horrifying.
And it really makes you think about how absolutely terrifying being eaten by a shark is. It's very visceral. You know, the idea of being yanked underwater is terrifying. And the way he directs it with, I would say, a lot of it's not glamorizing the gore of it.
No.
It's just the fear of her getting sucked under and eaten by this thing is so tangible. It's so well done.
Especially because like our other protagonist, who ends up not being important in the movie, but at that point is our protagonist, has fallen asleep. So she's screaming and no one can hear her.
Yeah.
You know? Contrasting that to Jaws 3, where it's just sort of, there's some shots of murkiness, and then it's just like big open water, and then there's a bunch of blood and like a weird a fish head floating towards the camera, and then just like a bunch of water skiers, and the music's bright and happy, and then we see the POV going towards the water skiers, but they make it away. Oh, la 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 la, and that's it. And I'm like, okay. So
and
what?
I feel like it's like, so you know that we're expecting a death potentially in the first scene, just like the first one, but you're trying to subvert that expectation by letting them get away. But it's boring.
Yeah, that's like subverting a story by instead not doing a story.
Exactly.
That's not a good story.
You know the conflict that made that first scene interesting? We won't do it, but we'll make you think maybe.
That's not
good.
Promising a story and then not doing it is not an interesting subversion. Subvert it in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really good at promising things and not doing them. And trust me, people do not like it.
You know what would be exciting? We see that POV and then they come up to get the thing, but then it's like a little fish or a little shark, and then it gets eaten by a big shark.
Ah!
Whoa, there's even bigger things here. think about it.
Sharks are truly terrifying. I'm afraid of the water.
Me too.
I don't like the water. I don't go in there. I don't swim there.
It is not our domain. We're land creatures, and the sea belongs to the creatures that dwell within.
We grew up in Sydney. I was lucky enough to grow up by the harbour. And so if I swam, I would usually swim in harbour beaches that had netting to protect you from any sharks in the harbour.
Yeah.
And even now, there are still... I mean, it's not like shark attacks are that frequent, but just a few weeks ago, maybe like two weeks ago, a woman was just swimming in Elizabeth Bay very close to where I grew up, and she got bitten on the leg by a shark and rescued. Someone heard her screaming for help. But I grew up with so many of these horror stories, and growing up near Bondi, where a lot of kids in my high school would go out for drinks on the cliffs of Bondi and then just fall off and die in the surf.
Yeah.
That I'm not a big fan.
No,
and
it's terrifying. We've tamed so much of the land around us in horrifying ways. Up until the 1800s, I think, the wolves would still invade the walls of Paris, you know?
Yeah.
But now we have total mastery in ways that aren't always good over the land around us. But the sea, even in a safe city,
not our domain.
It is not. It is untamable, and she will destroy us.
Truly, I'm not a great flyer, because every time I take off, I'm like, we shouldn't be here.
No.
This is not where we were meant to be.
This is not for us.
We were not designed to be here, which is why I love road trips. I love trains.
Yeah.
But I do not like the ocean. I will never go on a cruise. I don't like being out there for too long.
When you watched the classic movie, you liked the trains and the automobiles, but the planes...
Oh, not for me.
Couldn't do that.
I was so glad they got that over it with quite quickly in the film.
Oh, yeah. They really skim over it.
I just skip up until the train. When I was a kid, I used to watch Titanic, and the thought of drowning in the ocean was so terrifying that I would basically watch up until the iceberg hit, and then I would turn it off. And I'd be like, and they made it safely. It was too scary. It was too scary. And Poseidon was too much as well. The original used to play on free-to-air TV.
You meant the Sea God, not the Leslie Nielsen movie.
No. It's a terrible... Leslie Nielsen.
Well, he's a version of Poseidon.
Oh, he's not in the original, I think.
Oh, is he not?
Is he? Oh my God.
So there's a 2006 one.
Yeah, with Fergie. Fergie was in that.
Fergie's in it?
She's like the singer in the ballroom right before it goes down.
Wait, there's Poseidon, which is a 2006 movie.
Yeah.
There's also The Poseidon Adventure, a 2005 made-for-TV movie based on the 1969 novel of the same name, but it is a loose remake of the 1972 movie, The Poseidon Adventure.
Yes.
That one has Leslie Nielsen.
Does it actually?
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't remember him at all.
Because he was a dramatic actor before he was a comedic actor. And, quite famously, he said he delivered his lines all the same way.
Yeah.
Which I think is very funny when you then get to things like Dracula Dead and Loving It. Like, you are not delivering the same way as you did.
Yeah. Like, you're selling out now.
Yeah. In Airplane, sure. But in a movie like that, I'm like, you're hamming it up, my guy.
But yeah, Poseidon Adventure terrified me. I'm not a water person. Yeah. And then on top of all of this, I was listening to, in the original Jaws, how Quint tells that story of being in the water and all of these men getting picked off one by one. The infamous monologue.
Maybe the quintessential Seaman monologue.
Quintessential, nice.
Yeah. Seaman monologue.
Seaman monologue. Give me some skin, bitch. Yeah. Well, he tells that story. Apparently it's based on a real story. And I found out about this like a week or two ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since.
Oh my God.
I'll keep it brief for you, because I know we haven't even gotten into the fucking key details. In like the 1950s, there was this military ship, a US military ship that was traveling from basically, I think it was Indonesia over to the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually bringing like nuclear warheads, I'm pretty sure, from one place to another, and they didn't even know what was in the vessel. It was kept secret from like the 1,000 crew, like the 1,000 member crew that were on this ship. So lots of men with nuclear warheads transporting this thing. And the captain of the ship, his name was McVeigh, he asked them, he was like, are the waters safe? Because we know that there could be Japanese submarines all throughout the waters. I think this was either the 1940s or 50s.
Sure.
They knew Japanese subs were around. He asked for clearance, and they were like, you're fine to go. They were not fine to go. Because following them the entire way, like 100 meters underwater, was a Japanese sub. And when it finally managed to, apparently they told McVeigh, they were like, you can zigzag the sub, and just in case, and if someone does fire a torpedo, it won't hit you. It doesn't make sense if you're beneath something, because zigzagging works when you're looking at it from front to back. Like I'm standing in front of you zigzagging. But if I was above you zigzagging, it wouldn't quite be as effective because it's a long vessel.
Well, yeah, also like a ship doesn't pivot that quickly.
No, exactly. It's going so slowly. And so
If you turn, you actually make yourself a wider target.
Exactly. The captain was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's what a waste of time. And you say it's clear, so I guess I'll go. So they're going, and in the middle of the night, the torpedo blasts the ship wide open, and the 1,000 crew members are thrust into the sea. 200 of them die immediately. There's 800 men remaining. They're all basically in their life vests that they were able to get into, floating in the water.
Oh my God.
And the current starts separating them into two groups.
Oh my God.
And there's one group that has the Captain McVeigh, and they're in a slightly safer part of the ocean. And then there's a group of men that get swept south. There's about 500 of them. They are not in a safe area. And not only are they bobbing for hours in the water, trying to call for help, trying to see what's around them, nothing's around them. And they're becoming delirious from the motion of being bobbed in rough waters.
Yeah.
But then they realize that they can see a series of fins appearing on the horizon. And one by one, men just start getting tugged under.
Oh my God.
And there's nothing they can do. They're just bobbing there, hoping it won't be them next.
Oh my God.
And it goes on for hours. In fact, they are all in the ocean for 4 days.
Abigail.
I know. When they're finally rescued, there's only, I think, out of the 1,000 crew, I'm pretty sure from that second group that got swept down there, I think they rescued 180 men.
Oh my God.
That's how many men were killed by sharks. And these men were traumatized for the rest of their lives, remembering the screams and agonizing cries of the colleagues in the distance. Often at nighttime is when the sharks would feed as well, so they couldn't really see anything.
Oh my God.
And so that actually happened, and that's been plaguing my mind for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they tried to blame Captain McVeigh.
What?
Well, they were like, well, we told you to zigzag. And he was like, well, you told me there wasn't a fucking submarine.
What are you talking about?
And they destroyed his career to an extent that all of the families were blaming him, saying that he was the reason their sons died. So he killed himself. What a terrible story.
I don't care if you don't know what stars are. That was a great story. That was a great story. What a storyteller.
As I said, Michelle, I do not care to know. You know, I could have, in this time since last episode, looked up what suns are. Haven't.
Let's just do the key details. You told a great story, and that's all that really matters for your life, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all I care about. It's what the wards value.
Yeah.
Something I realized when I hang out with my family, all they care about is who can tell the best story. That's like the value that we actually look for in the Ward family.
And you know what really matters when I'm hanging out with my mum and my grandma?
What?
Who can tell the best joke?
Oh, so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this was made in 1983. Mm-hmm. The director was Joe Alves. This will come up again and again. Joe Alves is real hotshot production designer. He was the production designer on Jaws 1 and 2, as well as Escape from New York, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was also visual consultant and second unit director on Starman.
Nice.
Yeah, like real illustrious career. Oh, he was also art director on the Sugarland Express. Real, like, illustrious career. This is the only movie he's ever directed.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
You had your shot.
Yeah. And also, this is my pitch is I really think this is a movie that makes the case for why a director is important, because I actually think the cast and even a lot of the script is not bad. But it's put together in the worst way it could be.
We encounter this a lot, and I don't mean this as a generalization to say that this happens every time. It doesn't. But we have encountered a lot in this list. There's a guy that has been working potentially on as a cinematographer, a production designer, or a producer.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just like the editor, and they get this chance, or a music video director.
Yeah.
And they get a chance to do their first feature. And it shows that even with something that has a good premise or a good script, they can't make it work by themselves. And it's sad. It's disheartening. It doesn't mean that that's the case for anyone that is like working in as a crew member that wants to become a director. But we just see it a lot. It's like this one guy's big break, and then he does this and he goes straight back to the field he was in.
I've heard the adage so much of like, you know, with a bad script, you can never make a good film, but a good script can still make like a mediocre film, you know? And I think movies like this make the case that that's not quite true. You
Yeah.
know, like the director is really important because the visual storytelling in a cinematic medium is really important.
Yeah.
And it doesn't emphasize any of the beats that are present in the script, maybe.
Yeah.
Because those need to be translated.
When they say like you can have a good script and a bad director and it'll still be a good movie, I think what they mean is that the direction is, even if the direction is average and the script is good, it will be good. But it can't be the direction is bad.
That tends
it just
to
doesn't
just
work.
mean like it's not in your face directing.
Yeah,
it's not even bad
flashy.
directing.
It's like very stock standard, safe directing.
yeah, like
which
a
is
Mark
fine.
Foster kind of director, like a
Yeah.
real like a shoemaker kind of direction.
Yeah, there's plenty of films I love where it's like conservative directing. And I
Yeah.
like it. Sometimes it just works for the script.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the same thing as not good directing.
Yeah.
God damn. Anyway, this movie's also starring Dennis Quaid.
He was so young in this. I've never seen him
Unbelievably young.
so young.
My 2 takeaways: he looks as a young man a lot like Sean William Scott,
Yeah, I see
as
that.
well as he looks so much like Jack Quaid,
Crazy.
which is crazy.
Did we encounter Jack Quaid on this list before, haven't we? No, Randy Quaid.
Randy
Randy
Quaid,
Quaid, not
who
Jack
is
Quaid.
sort of. I think he is
I think
related
he
to
is.
Dennis
Isn't
Quaid.
he not just his brother?
I think he's his brother.
Yeah.
We've
encountered him
Randy
twice.
Quaid twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But-
this is the first time we've seen Dennis.
Hey, tell me if I'm wrong or not. Is Dennis Quaid like an asshole? I always got the feeling, you know, when like you're watching an actor and there's something that tells you that you read somewhere that he was an asshole, but you're not sure. I feel like Dennis Quaid always has asshole vibes.
This will come up again. Dennis Quaid did a lot of coke. Like,
Hey, haven't we all?
no.
Haven't I?
Yeah. Yes.
As mentioned.
I mean, here's the thing. He's in a shit ton of movies and was at one point like bordering on A-lister.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to is he an asshole, I'm like, an A-lister in the 90s who did a lot of coke, like probably at least at one point.
You know who I always confuse him with, which might be adding to it? I always, not really, but I think of these guys as being painted by the same brush.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. It's Dennis Quaid and Tim Allen. Because they both did a bunch of coke in the 80s, and there's something that you can almost tell that they're assholes.
I thought you were going to say Harrison Ford, because young Harrison Ford looks like an improved young Dennis Quaid.
Yeah. But I think Harrison Ford, despite him being notoriously grumpy, has good vibes.
He is famously a real sweetie on set. He's just like grumpy on a press tour.
Exactly.
Which I get.
Whereas-
I would be too. I would fucking hate it.
and hey, I've done a lot of coke and I wasn't an asshole, so it doesn't
Sure.
really just come with the territory.
No. I just mean like when we talk about a certain generation of movie stars, are they an asshole? I'm like, it's impossible to know how much they are an asshole to like their actual like peers and people around them. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's yeah. Anyway, it's also starring Bess Armstrong, Simon McCorkindale.
Is Bess Armstrong Kay Morgan?
Yes.
I really liked her.
Yeah, she was
And
good.
I liked her character.
And there's also Leah Thompson in her feature debut.
Oh my god, she
Yeah.
looked so young and baby-faced.
Yes, she did.
She's got these cute little features that make her look almost like chipmunk in a hot way. Like hot chipmunk.
Totally hot chipmunk.
it's like
when I see
Alvin's
her, I'm
dream
like,
girl.
Fuck that chipmunk.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
It's also her massive blowout, like her beautiful brown blowout in the entire film.
Totally.
But she's so young. So this was pre-Howard the Duck.
This is pre Howard the Duck.
Is Howard the Duck on the list, by the way?
No, it's not.
What the fuck?
It's too highly rated.
We're going to have to do a bonus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't done a bonus in a while. We got to do one soon.
We have so many ideas for bonuses and we just haven't done them.
Yeah, we got to
And
do Howard the Duck.
We've actually got less than 2 years left.
That's true. We got to
So we've
start
got a
cramming in
clock.
these bonuses.
Yeah.
Well, we can make this really drag out if we just release bonus episodes instead of regular weeks.
Yeah, we're actually so keen for the podcast not to end. We just start doing fortnightly releases instead all of a sudden.
Make it stretch out another few years.
Yeah, bonus episode every second week.
When I was doing really bad last year, you pitched that as a thing of like, we got to keep going with the podcast.
Yeah.
Pull yourself together.
Yeah.
But you said it in a much sweeter way.
I did. You were like, I feel bad. And I was like, it's okay, Michelle. I know you'll always get up for the podcast.
And I was like,
you won't be able to
you're right.
leave the podcast unfinished.
Yeah, and you started joking about like you'll find ways to drag it out so that I'll keep getting up and out of bed.
Yeah.
It was really sweet.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's also starring Louis Gossett Jr., who's a great actor.
Who did he play?
He was the head of the park, Calvin.
Calvin, yeah.
That guy. He was great, and he delivers one of my favorite lines that I'll get to later as well. The budget for this was $18 million, and it made 88.
So, commercial success.
Yes, obviously nowhere near on the scale of the original one, but still a commercial success.
Well, I wanted to ask you as well, Michelle, what happens in Jaws 2? Because I didn't watch Jaws 2 in preparation for this, but Jaws 1, obviously, is about like Captain Brody on Amity Island. Is that what it was called?
Amity Island.
And then, defending his sons in the community from a shark. And then this film contains his sons grown up. What's the second one? Are they teenagers? Are they still little boys?
Let me look it up. By the way, the original one, because I was also looking this up while you were saying that, the original Jaws, the budget was $9 million and the box office was $476.5.
Fuck, that is amazing.
Which made it, it was the highest grossing film of all time until the release of Star Wars.
Fuck. God damn.
That's why those two movies are foundational to the evolution of what a blockbuster is.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't remember the plot of Jaws 2 off the top of my head. My sister really liked Jaws 3 and 4 a lot more.
What's 4 about?
Michael Caine comes in.
What?
Yeah, he has a famous line about it of like, I've never seen the film, but the holiday home it built is lovely.
Yeah, that's right. You told me about
that.
Yeah. Some sharks just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. It's like it's the mum. I can't remember the actress's name, but it's the mum from the original. Lorraine Gray is the actress. That's right. Lorraine Gary, sorry. Roy Scheider, I think, gets killed by a shark, and because Roy Scheider didn't want to come back.
They killed off Brody?
I for Jaws: The Revenge, I think, and so it's mostly like Lorraine Gary and Michael Caine comes in, and it's the same shark. It wants revenge against them, and then they like use a signal to kill it. It's insane. I think we have to do it on the list.
But that's
why I'm not getting more into it.
Have they just abandoned the brothers? I thought the brothers were.
The brothers are still in it. Like I said, Jaws 4 ignores Jaws 3.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's, again, another thing we've encountered so often. It's like the Highlander experience where 2 isn't canon. Let's just go to 3.
I love when sequels just ignore another one of the sequels. It's always so funny. I love when they have
to come out and be like, we're sorry. It was bad. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. And can we try again?
And almost always botch it.
Yeah.
Almost always botch it.
Guess what? It doesn't get better. They don't improve it.
That one was bad. This one is also bad, but in a different way.
Can we just stop doing sequels, stop doing remakes, just find new stories to tell?
Yeah.
That would be for the best, I would say.
Well, but the problem is that then they go, oh, people don't watch it. But the thing is, people do watch it. It'll be like a movie that still makes $80 million or $150 million, but it needed to make $800 million.
Yeah.
And it cost 200. Stop doing that. Stop expecting it to make $1 billion. Be happy. You made $80 million. Be happy with that, man. That's
Stop being greedy.
Just chill out. God.
I think we need to chill out as well.
I think so. I don't remember the plot of Jaws 2, and this overview of it is really quite long.
Okay.
So I won't get into it because I need to do the overview of Jaws 3.
Okay.
And it's fine because you don't really need to know the plot of it. The main important thing is that Roy Scheider's still in that one.
Yeah. But he's not in this one, but he's still alive during this film.
I think canonically he's alive in Jaws 3.
And then he's killed in Jaws 4.
Which, again, has no impact on whether or not he was alive in Jaws 3.
Yeah, okay. It's so weird. Okay, anyway, go on.
Okay, so here's the overview. Mike Brody, son of Police Chief Brody, and his girlfriend Kay are working at SeaWorld Orlando as park manager Calvin unveils new underwater tunnels for the park. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the real SeaWorld has a Bond villain layer in it like this movie does, but that's what's being pitched in the movie.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mike's brother Sean arrives in town to visit and quickly begins dating one of the park's water skiers, Kellyanne. Around the same time, adventurer and hunter Philip Fitzroyce and his assistant Jack Tate also arrive at Calvin's request. Now we've got why everyone's there.
Yeah.
While looking for a missing mechanic in the water, Mike and Kay are attacked by a great white shark but manage to escape with the help of the dolphins. While telling Calvin, Fitzroyce suggests that they kill the shark on network TV, but Kay insists that they capture the shark instead, arguing it would generate more publicity for the park anyway. This is important. At this time, I don't know if this is still true. Maybe there had never been a great white kept in captivity because it's so easy for them to die, as we see later in the movie.
Yeah.
It's hard to aerate them and stuff. They successfully capture the shark, but Calvin, desperate for money, moves it immediately to an exhibit, whereupon it dies in front of everyone. The missing mechanic's body is found, and they realize the shark they had captured was just the baby of a much larger mother shark.
Which actually was a fun revelation.
Yes,
I enjoyed that, where she was Kay Morgan, because she was great the entire time, where she's just the jaws must have been a yard big. which means, and she's like having this big revelation in front of everyone, and I was like, whoa.
Imagine if that was directed like how, fucking Roy Scheider on the beach after the mayor decides to leave open Amity Island.
Yeah.
And then he sees he thinks the shark has been taken care of, but we know it hasn't. And then he sees his son's in the water and they see the shark approaching and it fucking zollies on him and he's like, holy shit. Imagine if that sort of direction was applied to that scene.
Yeah, honestly.
It would be great.
It was fantastic. It was
well written.
Because, listen, it may have been because I wasn't fully absorbed by this very boring film.
Yeah.
Or that the shots weren't clear enough for me to determine it, but I didn't know there was a mother shark lurking.
Yeah.
I thought there was just
we the audience don't know.
Exactly. And so that's good because I was like, maybe there were shots that were meant to give it away, but I didn't know. So when she has the revelation, you, the viewer, are like, holy shit, this is massive. So that was like the one thing they actually did really well.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. That's all script stuff.
Yeah.
The actual and God, the third act is covered in such a confusing way.
Yeah.
I had to rewatch it in part because the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, and there were so many dark, murky shots, by the way. It was such a dark film.
That, by the way, was to do with the fact that when this was originally released in 3D, it was the first movie with Arri's new like Arri Vision 3D camera.
Yeah.
But when they had to then convert it to 2D, apparently there was something in the process that made the whole thing so much darker and weirdly murky.
Sense. There's like that shot where they're like talking at night on a pier and you can barely see them.
Oh, well, there's also like them, like when they're talking on the beach and stuff, the most like clearly day for night shot scene I've ever seen in my life. Like that's clearly a blue fucking sky. It's daytime that they've tinted.
But you've taken it down. Yeah. And now I can't see anything.
Yeah, because obviously the surroundings on this beach and sky are way brighter than they are.
Do you mean when they're talking about how he has to go to Venezuela?
Yeah.
And he's like, you should come with me. Yeah. I was like, what's happening? I was like turning the brightness up and I was like, what the fuck?
The only thing we can't see because they've color converted it is them. It's insane. It smacks up like a reshoot scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, coincidentally, that same mother shark then begins to attack the park in the underwater restaurant, injuring water skiers and damaging some of the tunnels, trapping guests inside. Fitzroyce and Jack head into the water to trap the shark in a pump tunnel, but Fitzroyce is swallowed whole in the process and also dies.
I'm glad. He was annoying.
He was very annoying. He's also... We'll get into it. While trying to seal and suffocate the shark inside the tunnel, it breaks free of containment and Mike and Kay narrowly escape with the help of the dolphins. The shark attacks the underwater control room, bursting it open, but Mike notices the grenades on Fitzroy's corpse still in the shark's mouth and manages to pull out a pin before escaping, exploding the shark. Mike and Kay celebrate their victory with the dolphins as the sun rises? Sun rises.
Can I ask... Do Mike and Kay figure out what's going to happen with the Venezuela thing?
There's like I only noticed it on the second watch.
Yeah.
Like in the midst of all the chaos, there's a really brief moment, I think, where they think they've trapped the shark in the tunnel, where she makes like an oblique reference to like maybe in Venezuela they'll need like whales trained and so, like as if
I'll come with you and I will give
I'll
my
come
life
with you.
up.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, the shark storyline, it's what you expect from the film, and it is, in some respects, the least interesting part of the story. Because I was like, you know what the strongest bit of this film was the idea. I thought the relationship between Kay and Mike was really nice.
Yeah.
They were really sweet and loving and cute. And when he was offered a job in Venezuela, she's like, I can't go. I can't give up my life. I have like all these job opportunities here. And he makes a joke being like, but you should give up your life and follow me. And they agree that probably won't happen, which I loved. And then there was a bit where he was like, hey, maybe we should talk about that. And she's like, yeah, we should have a chat.
Well,
and I was like,
he delivers one of my favorite lines. You and me are going to have a serious conversation about you and me, about what's really going on. The least subtle man on the planet.
But I was like, you know what I'm actually absorbed in is their relationship. I was like, I want them to stay together and I don't want them. I was kind of like, oh, that's really sad. They're going to have to split. That was the strongest part of the entire film emotionally.
It's also fun because they're clearly the Brody and Richard Dreyfuss analog. It's fun to make those analogs date.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, Kay Morgan was a really great character.
Yeah.
She wasn't like a overly like, I'm a strong, independent woman. She was just like a woman that seemed like really like bold and confident and took initiative and wasn't afraid to like stand up to people, but they didn't make a whole song and dance about it.
Yeah.
They weren't like, your girlfriend's a bit, overwhelming, she was cool. She was really well
the
done.
The closest they come is they set up like they're going to do a love triangle with Fitzroy's, and then she knocks it back so instantly.
She's just like, yeah, I don't know. I think he asked her for a drink and she's like, I don't do that kind of behavior or whatever.
Even though sometimes it can be good and important thematically to stories to have like, the sexist character that comes in. There's been a lot of conversation on Twitter recently about like the live action Avatar.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about how they're going to tone down some of the sexism as shown by the character of Sokka because it's aged poorly. But like it's really important to the journey of Sokka as well as to the journey of Katara and her overcoming sexism.
It's an emotional arc. It's like being like, I can't make any of my characters flawed.
Yeah.
Because people won't like them. It's like you have to make them flawed and then they get over it. That's why you like them.
There's kind of been a bunch of press releases recently that are like, the journey, the emotional journey that they go on, we're not doing that.
We're not doing that because it's problematic. And it's like, that's why they did it.
That's why it's an arc. That's why it changes over time. Someone learning to overcome sexism is more interesting.
I'm not going to be that grumpy old person that's just like, they're censoring everything these days, because they don't. But when people try and... there is this kind of like, I don't want to make my character problematic because I don't want there to be controversy. And it's like, if you handle it right, there will not be controversy.
Yeah.
If you're exploring genuinely someone that needs to overcome some kind of prejudice they have, that's interesting.
We've talked about the Robin Hobb books a lot. And one of the things I love about them is that every character in those books are so fucking flawed.
Yeah.
So fucking... Especially in, like, some of the later books where you get more POV and stuff. Some of the characters you get POVs of, you initially fucking hate.
Yeah.
And you watch them go on these, like, enormous emotional journeys and you feel for them because you get why they make the choices they do,
Claude and I are watching The Shield at the moment, which is fantastic. There's a character called Shane who is, like, the main character, Vic Mackey. He has a right-hand man called Shane who's played by Walton Goggins.
Oh, I didn't know Goggins was from The Shield.
He's like one of the main characters. He is such an arsehole. He's a bad guy. He's fully racist.
Yeah.
Because he's from
played
Georgia.
by Walton Goggins.
I know, yeah. His character's from Georgia. He's fully racist. And he doesn't like other black men's success. He gets really intimidated by them. There's a bit where he calls a guy he's working with a slur and they end up having this brutal fight. He's a terrible guy. It's like saying, well, you can't depict a character like this because it's problematic that you would even give him airtime. And it's like, it's not about saying, yes, his beliefs are good. That's not what the show is ever doing. It's saying this guy needs to challenge his beliefs because it's setting him back. He's a bad person because of it.
Yeah. I sometimes understand and agree, and even at times agree with the argument where it's like, like sometimes when movies have Nazis in it, they show the Nazis as like really cool and powerful. And I'm like, I do think that actually does contribute to a narrative of aggrandizing them because the fundamental thing is they're fucking losers who lost every fucking battle they were in.
Yeah, but at the time they were becoming more powerful. That's not that they were
sure.
They were a well-organized army and they were powerful in the late 30s.
But that's the thing. When you meet in real life someone who is like a neo-Nazi, they're not strong and powerful. They're a fucking loser.
Well, they're usually like a skinhead that lives in the suburbs and has like a little sister that they hate, and they don't wear Doc Martens anymore because they're not made in England.
Yeah.
Like they're that kind of... He probably works at Red Rooster on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's what a Nazi is now.
Yeah.
But to be honest, sometimes you do glamorize soldiers and you glorify war because they were doing things that we would never do now. Like it's like it depends what they're talking about in terms of
totally.
Nazis. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like it has more nuance to it and stuff. The point is, in Jaws, I just appreciated that she was the senior biologist and no character was like, what's a woman doing this?
I know, exactly. And like, who let you do that? Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to have to bother with this.
There was never this shithead that challenged her.
Yeah.
And I like this bit where like they find the dead body of, what's his name? Overton?
Yeah, Overton.
Yeah, they find the dead body of a guy that went missing.
Dennis Quaid does the worst retching I've ever seen.
Funny.
It's really bad.
The dead body is really gory, but it's funny to look at because they do this close-up shot of it, and it's like, wow, I can see like you've added all the hairs, and it doesn't
like
look
a
real.
Good practical effect. It's gooey. It's wet
gooey.
and sticky.
It's gross.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make you be like, it looks real. But he looks at it and retches, and then she wants to look at it, and he's like, no, don't. And she's like, I've seen shark attacks before, and then she looks at it, and then she's like, oh my god, like it's. And it's not a way to demean her. It's that and it's not being like, look how cocky she is. She can't handle it. Like Dennis Quaid had retched. Yeah. And she was just like, that's fucked.
But it's like the scene before it is also the bit where I think the most harrowing part of the movie is when the shark gets moved to the exhibit and she realizes and she
Yeah.
runs over to it, and then like imagine you're at that fucking water park. You
And a
think you're
shark
like
dies.
yeah, you watch like the keepers like scream and run in, and then the shark just dies in front of you.
It'd be really sad.
It'd be so. I was like, this is a really upsetting part of the movie in a good way.
Yeah. You know what I don't understand? I was watching Planet Earth with Claude. All of my stories about what I've been watching with my husband. That's what my life is like now. Off drugs. But we were watching Planet Earth, and I keep getting, I find it disturbing because there's a lot of shots, obviously, of animals preying on other animals and catching them and killing them and ripping them open and eating their flesh. And I find it really disturbing because I'm not used to seeing it. And then sometimes Claude is like, well, we see movies all the time where people are hurt. And I'm like, they're movies. They're fictional.
Yeah.
We don't really see a person get shot in the head. When you watch this, it's distressing because you know that animal is in genuine real life fear running away. And it scares me. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
So if you were at a zoo and an animal died, you would be really disturbed by it.
Yeah, I remember having to one time edit. So, you know, for the listeners, there was a period where I worked for this Indigenous health network, and I was editing like health videos and stuff for it. We had to cut down other pieces of content that people had made to package for like Indigenous health centers and stuff, which was really cool. And one time, one of them was this show. I can't remember the name of. I wish I could in this moment, but it was quite genuinely following this like group of friends, you know, who
Oh, it's Friends.
It's friends.
Yeah.
These like three Indigenous guys and their white friend, who they went out on like a hunting trip. They just like, you know, had driven to this part of the water. They took a boat over to this island, and they like stayed there too long, and their boat got lost.
Oh, God.
And like with the camera crew and everything. And so then it really genuinely follows them as they have to like construct a new boat. They make it back, but the car's been washed away, so they can't drive it. So then they have to like walk across the land. They eventually like stumble upon, like, you know, and they have to hunt because that's the only food.
Holy
they've
shit.
brought.
That's amazing.
It was really cool. And it was really honest. The bit that got me as someone who is, you know, like on and off vegetarian for like 8 years and stuff is because they were really hunting the animals, you know, they're hunting like crocodiles and at times kangaroos and stuff. And then cooking them with the tools they had available, which meant just like open flame and stuff, and then carrying those pieces around.
Yeah.
There was a certain line I had in discussion with my manager who was Indigenous himself of, we were like, some of this we can't show because it's in doctors' offices, but some of it is also like culturally specific and wouldn't have the same reaction that I'm having, and that's fine. So not all of it is sensitive content in the same way because it's just like normal hunting.
Yeah.
But for me, it was upsetting because it was a real animal in a way that if I was watching a movie, it wouldn't be so visceral, you know?
Yeah.
Such an interesting line, but it was such a cool fucking series.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's disarming. When I watch Planet Earth, I'm like, that's a real fucking deer that is getting the shit eaten out of it. And I don't want to see it. And so every time I'd watch it, I would like literally cover my eyes for the death scenes.
Yeah.
And Claude would watch for me because I just find it. And then he'd be like, well, I think he didn't get it. He was like, why does it disturb you when we watch like gory shit all the time? And again, I was like, that's fiction.
Yeah.
That's fiction. But they're not really.
It's also like the tone of it. There's a reason that I really like The Thing, but I don't like a lot of slashes. A guy just like stabbing someone else really upsets me a lot more than someone's stomach exploding, because that's nothing.
I know that people always want to be like, wow, we've gone overboard with trigger warnings, but God, I'm really thankful that we have them sometimes. Like, I watch Forensic Files, classic show run from 1996 until, I mean, it's running now. It had a break. And they do lots of cases that they solve through DNA evidence, and they show the most barbaric shit. This is 1996, so they're just showing, there was one episode, I swear to God, it was about a girl that had been mauled by her pet dog to death.
Oh my God.
And half of her leg was missing, like a chunk of her thigh was gone. And they just showed the photo of it. No warning.
Oh my God.
There was a photo of a dead 4-year-old with a chunk of leg missing. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really, there's like a lot of genuine like snuff content on Forensic Files. And I was like, this is dangerous to show. I shouldn't be seeing this.
Yeah. Now you just need to go on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of that death and stuff, so Fitzroy's dying.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Fitzroy's and his relationship with Jack, who, by the way, he was Harry in Lock, Stock.
Oh,
Right?
Oh shit.
I was like, why is he familiar? I was like, he has the exact same fucking hair and mustache as he does 20 years later.
God. There you go.
or 15 years, whatever.
He's got a very distinct face.
He does. And a very distinct sort of like Cockney-ish sort of accent.
I love how the guy kept calling Fitzroy's governor. I'm like, this seems like a parody of English people.
It does. And at first I was like, is this like a homoerotic thing? You know, like they're friends. And then I realized I don't think it is. I think it's deeply like English class consciousness. This is a poor lower class boy and his wealthy patron.
Yeah, I mean it was quite common up until like the 70s, where a lot of English gentlemen would have like a batman, which is just a man that would carry their shit for them.
This is his manservant.
Yeah, honestly.
To you know, harken back to Thunderbirds. This is his manservant.
I'm so glad you harkened back to Thunderbirds. We're overdue for a harkening.
I just remember our shock at realizing that character was referred to in script as a manservant.
Yeah.
People shouldn't have an Indonesian manservant.
No. Can they say that? Sounds like a slur.
I don't think they should. But Fitzroy dies. He gets swallowed, but he gets swallowed whole, and it's something that's kind of cool, but also really weird because he's just in the shark. He's fully in the shark. We see him past the jaws. There's no teeth where he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, how's he going to get out? What's he going to do? And he's just sort of like floundering around in there until suddenly a bunch of blood appears.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
They didn't have the budget. They were just like, all right, throw the red food dye in. Let's get this over and done with. There was a lot of deaths like that. Like when Leah Thompson's character gets bitten on the leg.
Yeah.
She's kind of like kicking around and you can't tell what's happening, and then suddenly blood appears and you're like, well, I guess she got bitten.
Yeah.
Couldn't see it.
That one I thought they pulled off better. They didn't pull off stuff like the shark hitting the glass in the control room and the really weird 3D effect.
Well, the truth is, in the original Jaws, when Quint is eaten by the shark, when he is chomped on right in the chest, he's like sliding down the boat and the shark is eating the top of the boat, and then his teeth sink into Quint's chest and he goes, ah! That,
just like that.
Yeah.
Perfect
it's
performance.
so well done.
It's so
because
great.
it is so graphic, but not in an over the top way. It is just showing truly teeth sinking into
contrasting to all the conversations we were just having about violence and snuff films. I love watching Quint get eaten in half in that bit.
It's fiction.
It's fake.
It's not a real 4-year-old girl getting eaten by a shark.
I mean, no moment in any Jaws movie beats when the shark explodes and then we see like in the water the explosion and then the jaws fly to the camera and just sort of hang there.
Mm-hmm. That was a lot.
That's the best shot in the movie.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
Not really. It was a pretty fucking forgettable film. It really was.
Well, then, do you want to hear some trivia?
Yeah.
IMDb trivia.
I actually have a bunch of trivia for this.
Great.
Especially because I thought we wouldn't have as much time. We wouldn't have as much to talk about, so I have overbooked the trivia. You know?
Nice.
David Brown and Richard D. Zanuck, producers of the first two films, originally pitched this as a spoof based on a suggestion by Maddie Simmons and John Hughes, titled National Lampoon's Jaws 3, People 0. Now, I also have seen stories that was not pitched by those two, but instead pitched by a different writer, but still with the name Jaws 3, People 0.
Okay.
It was about a movie studio trying to make a second sequel to Jaws 1975. It opened with author Peter Benchley being eaten in his pool by a shark and included a naked Bo Derek and shark-costumed aliens. Joe Dante was attached as a director. Steven Spielberg rejected the idea and threatened to walk from his deal with Universal. When Zanuck and Brown learned of the rejection, they quit the studio. Which I guess means they did it so that they could still make Jaws and so that Spielberg stayed with Universal.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
David Brown, who I couldn't find who that was, I have no idea who David Brown is, later said that the studio attitude was that a spoof would have been a mistake and that it would be like fouling in your own nest. To which he went on to say, we should have fouled the nest. It would have been golden, maybe even platinum. Which I love that. Like, you're making Jaws 3. I think it's fine to foul the nest in that case, you know? Here's a quote from the writer, Richard Matheson, which I really loved because it told me so much about how the movie was made. I'm a good storyteller and I wrote a good outline and a good script. And if they had done it right and if it had been directed by somebody who knew how to direct, I think it would have been an excellent movie. Jaws 3D was the only thing Joe Alves ever directed. The man is a very skilled production designer, but as a director, no. And the so-called 3D just made the film look murky. It had no effect whatsoever. It was a waste of time.
It did make the film look murky. There were so many shots where you could just see this tinge of where the 3D was meant to be coming out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made it look fuzzy and odd.
And just like flat.
Yeah.
You know? Here's another one. According to the book, Roy Scheider, a film biography, this answers some of the questions you had at the beginning.
Okay.
Scheider, who starred in the first two Jaws movie, once said, Mephistopheles couldn't talk me into doing it. They knew better than to even ask about doing a third Jaws movie. Reportedly, Scheider agreed to make the movie The Blue Thunder in order to ensure that he was definitely not and contractually unavailable for this film. Scheider had made Jaws 2 reluctantly due to a contract issue with Universal Pictures, whereby he owed the studio 2 films after withdrawing from The Deer Hunter 1978. To get out of the situation, he opted to do Jaws 2, a movie on which he didn't want to work, in exchange for the studio releasing him from his contract.
It's pretty like heavy metal to just be like, I'm just going to book myself into a completely different film I don't give a shit about. So
I
you
can't
cannot take
do
me.
it. Oh my God. What a bad coincidence.
I seem to be booked out.
Yeah. Here's 2 Dennis Quaid ones. In a later interview, Dennis Quaid referred to this movie as, I was in Jaws what? Later, in a different 2015 interview, he said that of all his films, he made the most aggressive use of cocaine during the filming of Jaws 3D, and that he was high on the drug in, and I quote, every frame in which he appears.
Holy shit. To be fair, Coke isn't as strong as it should be.
Sure.
It's just really not. It's like a mellow up. It's like when people are like, whoa, they were coked up. It's not like you're on speed. Speed is different. But when you're on Coke, it's just like a mellow high.
It's also not that long. So, like, he would have to be doing it between takes.
Yeah, there's a reason people waste a lot of money on it. It should last longer. That's why I gave it up, honestly, was the price.
It's expensive.
It's really expensive for not a good high.
The film made $13,422,500 in its first weekend. It held the record for highest grossing opening for a 3D film until Spy Kids 3 Game Over.
Oh my God.
Which made $33 million in its opening weekend. The Brody brothers, Sean and Mike, are the only 2 characters that appear in all 4 Jaws movies. They are also played by different actors, in every installment.
Wow.
I know.
Oh, that's insane.
I know. Leah Thompson said in an interview she lied about having starred in other films prior to casting in order to get the part of Kelly, which was her first feature film role.
I love that. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and the first scene that she filmed was apparently the moment she was attacked by the shark, which required her to be thrust up and out of the water by the mechanical shark.
I remember that bit. It kind of like launches her out of the water.
Yeah.
Great Leah Thompson moment.
Yeah.
She nailed it.
She's a star.
The truth is you can lie your way into anything, and I encourage it.
But I think now they check a little more. Ugh. I know. Here's my last piece of trivia. In one of the remade shots, when the shark explodes, the shot that I said of the jaws, some of the entrails that fly out of the screen in 3D are actually a brown leather E.T. doll.
That's great.
Do you want to hear some reviews?
Yes.
Reviews!
All right. This has 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And this is the last 3.7 on IMDb.
Heading into the 3.6s?
Which, as far as I remember, is also where it starts to descend more rapidly.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert, the Chicago Sun-Times, heavily criticized the film. And on At the Movies, particularly, he criticized a scene where the shark follows some water skiing performance, which he found unrealistic, while Gene Siskel criticized the 3D, finding the scene where the shark breaks the aquarium glass to be the worst effect of the film. Both named it one of the worst sequels of the year. Yeah. Here's an IMDb review. It says, okay movie, not the worst, but not the best, by D. Holster Boys. A shark so big, 2 dimensions weren't enough. Well, the shark was pretty big, being 35 feet, which, by the way, is 10 feet larger than the shark in either Jaws 1 or 2.
Wow.
But maybe they should have paid more. Maybe they should have paid more for maybe a 20-foot shark and the rest of the money on better electronics. I like the cast, but it would have been better is it had been re-released in 3D nowadays. I mean, Spy Kids 3D, Shark Boy and Lava Girl 3D. Why not re-release Jaws 3, except with a D at the end? I mean, the reasons the animation looks so fake is because it was made for 3D effects. So overall, it's an okay movie if you're faithful to the series or just bored on a Friday night. But with the cast they have, it is real good. I mean, Mike Brody was very convincing. I give it as a 7.8 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
That's a very high score.
It's a very high score. I love when people say actors are convincing. I'm like, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
They should always convince you. That shouldn't be a hard stretch. Here's another one. Excellent prequel to the Steven Spielberg by Tim Lucero. I remember when I saw this at the theater in summer 1983. I like the actors, plots, and the theme of the SeaWorld aquatic park that is offered in this music. However, the 3D effects really scared me, and when I was 11 years old, Plus, I love the vintage Mercury V6 outboard boat motors that were used in the movie. Meanwhile, I wish that Dennis Quaid and Bess Armstrong would reprise their roles for the Revenge sequel that features Lorraine Gary's comeback. In fact, I have to SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. 10 out of 10. I really couldn't make sense of a lot of the sentences in that one.
No.
And here's the last one. It's a short one. It's titled 3D by Bevo13678.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Lay it on me.
I like the bit at the end when the grenade blows the shark up. 10 out of 10.
He's a troll, but we love him.
We love him.
We love Bevo.
We love Bevo.
We're going to have to get him on.
But-
or her.
Yeah, sorry. Or them.
Or them.
We don't know anything about Bevo.
No.
Don't presume, Abigail.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, that was Rating Descending All-Star Bevo's review. What was yours?
2.1.
No expansion?
It looked like a movie, but was too boring. 2.1. It's not getting anything better from me. I really found it hard to get through. It should have been easier. It was 90 minutes and it felt like an eternity. It was so slow. It was so slow for very little happening. Actually, I'll give it 2.2 because I liked Kay Morgan. 2.2.
Okay. Well, I think I enjoyed it more. I still make the case that this is a movie where most of the elements actually work.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally the problem is within the script, Mike Brody isn't a very interesting protagonist. He doesn't really do anything.
He's got nothing going on.
And then the direction is flawed. So I was going to give it a 3, but I'm going to bump it up by 0.5 for Louis Gossett Jr., the bit where he's very panicked, but he's trying to get the patrons to flee the tunnels.
Yeah.
And he puts so much stank on it. I don't have the whole line written, but at the end, he's like, most convenient and accessible exits.
Yes.
He's such a great
fun.
delivery in it. He's fun throughout the whole movie. So for that, 3.5.
Okay, that's a really nice score. Very generous.
3 with a 0.5 for Gossett Jr.
Yeah, fair.
But that was just what we think. We think lots of things all the time. And some of the platforms on which we think them are Twitter or X at Rate Descend Pod or TikTok at Rating Descending. Or you can even talk to us directly and let us know your thoughts by emailing us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. We love the emails.
Love the emails.
We're trying to pitch ourselves here, Abigail.
And you can find us on our personal accounts. You can't really find me because I'm not on Insta, but you can find us on YouTube under Rating Descending.
Yeah, or you can find me on personal accounts on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle.St. on Letterboxd at M.St. Clair, or you can find the trailer for Shippers, the series, at on Instagram and YouTube at Shippers, the series. Or you can find No Ordinary Love on YouTube at No Ordinary Love Series. Or you can find the doco-series Unerased on Instagram at -18youth or on TikTok at unerased.tv. Also, some friends of mine have made a portable MP3 music player inspired by the iPod Classic called Tangara, and you can buy it, back the campaign for it, find out more about it at crowdsupply.com/cool-tech-zone/Tangara. I've been posting about it everywhere, so it's fine.
But what you could do right now, not you, Michelle, the listener,
Ooh.
is leave us a review wherever they get their podcasts. It really makes a difference.
You know, that was Jaws 3D. Abby, what are we watching next week?
Michelle, next week we are watching Kalenk, which is a really long Bollywood film,
Hey, we're back with the Indian
with
historical
Bollywood,
drama.
which I love. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. Those are long movies.
It's a long 2 hours and 45 minutes is a real bad start.
But you know what? I liked Thugs of Hindustan.
I love Turks of Kyrgyzstan.
Oh my God, Abigail.
See you there.